So this is the model interface for GSTT-ACU IVF lab simulation using Simul8 software. The interface is how the simulation model is presented to be able to use it. As we can see, the display is divided into areas. So these areas are mapping the lab floor plan. We start by recovery room. This is where all the beds are. The second one is the egg collection room or the egg collection theatre. Then we've got the andrology lab, where all the semen analysis procedures are done. The main lab, where most of the IVF lab procedures are done. The embryo transfer room. This is where we put embryos back into the uterus. And then we have the cryo room. This is where we store all the embryos and gametes for the future. The middle section are all the steps that are mapped into the simulation model. And here we see that we've got all the resources that are mapped into each area. The next sections are the buttons here, which are the control buttons, and then the clock to say where we are in the simulation. If we take an example of a simulation run, one of the most common ones. So what we have is a couple arrives, a patient coming for egg collection with her partner. So what happened upon arrival for egg collection? The female patients are directed to recovery, while the male partners will be directed into the andrology sperm production room. So what happens is the female partner will have her egg collection in theatre. The eggs are collected and they will go to the main lab. At the same time, the male partner will produce a semen sample in the sperm production room, and the sample will be processed in the andrology lab. Then what happens is both samples, the eggs that are collected and the sperm that is prepared, they both go to the lab, and this is where we do the insemination. That's if we don't have egg freezing. Then when we do the insemination, we have different pathways. There's IVF and ICSI, and there's PGD. Uh, Behind these icons, if we double click on these, we have the remaining parts of the pathway. For easiness of use, not all the pathways are seen on the model. They're not visible. So when we look at all the steps, we have three different icons that are used. So the first icon is the icon with the cross, and these are activities, theatre, sperm production, freezing of sperm. And then we have the cues, which are buckets here. Cues they're represented by this icon. And we've got tick boxes where we can see here. So tick boxes are boxes where a process finishes. Alongside the IVF processes where we have insemination or egg freezing, we have a different pathway that is set up, and it's parallel to the other one, is what we call frozen embryo transfers. And this is where the process is. It starts with taking embryos out of dewars and then thawing them, checking the survival, and checking re-expansion. At the end, they will go to embryo transfer. So the next part, as we explained earlier, is the clock. It's on the right-hand side. It will represent the date, the time, and the week of the year where we are in the simulation. Then we have the control buttons. So if we start by reset, so reset will clear the current simulation and start again with a fresh run, especially if we change the settings. Then we have the run button. This is where we're going to be able to run the simulation and initiate it. Then we got the settings, and this is where we're going to change the settings to be able to have more staff, less staff, different timings. So if we take an example to run the simulation as it is. We're going to reset the model to 0. Everything will turn into 0. And then we can run the simulation on two options. If we press on the run button, we have two options, whether a single run or a trial run. So if we choose the trial run, we can run the simulation many times, as many as 100, 110. We can do as many as possible. A single run will just run the simulation for one run, which is 1 year in our case. So choosing trial run, if for example we choose 10, means that the simulation is going to run 10 times and will give us results. The purpose of a trial run is to check the reliability of results. You don't have a result from running 1 year, but you're going to run the same year, but many times. So if we click on that and we do OK, this is what we're going to get in terms of results. We will see that simulators conducting a trial. It takes some time, but we will get a result in a different format. So at the end of the simulation run, we will have the results in a format of confidence intervals, as we will see the screen in a bit. So we will have the tasks that are completed, but more in a format of a confidence interval with a low and a high part of the range, and it's associated with a graph as well. Running the simulation can come from this button as a single run, or it comes from this button here. It runs for 52 weeks, but we can stop it at any time. We can stop it before the 52 weeks, which is a year, and we can control the speed as well. So the speed control will allow us to see the flowing of all the tasks. So suppose that we can reduce the speed here to, we will be able to see, and we run the simulation with a random number. The simulation will run and we can see here all the tasks flowing, and we can see the clock as well moving. The clock will move very slowly to start with because we have chosen a slower mode. We will see the buckets filling as well. It will allow a visual check of how everything is run. If we want to make it quicker, we move the cursor and we will see that everything will move quicker here. At the end of the simulation run, we will see a very brief summary that will tell us how the system behaved. It will tell us the number of transfers completed, the number of egg collections completed, the number of egg freezing completed. We will also see at the end of the run all these tasks completed here, where the tick boxes are. Now we have run the simulation, we can see the results. We can see that by pressing this button. We have 4 types of results that we can observe. The first one is called process metrics. Process metrics will be a table with all the processes that were completed at the end of the run. So it would be the number of egg collection completed versus the one that were planned in the calendar. We will have the number of transfers, fresh and frozen, the number of freezes, the number of semen freezes. It will allow to see how the system behaved. We also have the staff utilization as an average over the whole year, and also the equipment utilization. The next type of results we have is the queuing results. If we click on that, we will see the average time and the maximum time spent by items in a queue. Queues are normal. They are expected for certain tasks, but when they are not expected or they are longer than expected, it could be a way to highlight some bottlenecks. Some of the tasks here are called dummy tasks. So they are just transition tasks, so they're not going to have any added value. What we can have next is unfinished tasks. Unfinished tasks will highlight any incomplete steps by the end of the simulation, any simulation day over the whole period. As the simulation will run for the year, it will give us the number of unfinished tasks or activities every day of that year. So it will be an Excel spreadsheet table that will tell us on each day of the simulation what are the tasks that are left undone by the staff at the end of their shift. The last section of results is what we call time interval results. So time interval results is mainly a utilization rate of a staff or resource. We've chosen here staff, embryologists and practitioners. It would be the utilization rate over that day of the simulation. So we always start by the first day of the simulation here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it goes back again to 1, which is a Monday. So we know the first day is the 3rd of January 2022, and then we can export this spreadsheet to know the utilization rate of staff for each day. So these are the results we have chosen. We can choose to add more results. We can choose to see the time duration between tasks. We can add these to the display as well. This is something optional that can be changed. So these results can be exported to Excel to be analyzed further. If we want to run the model again, we can clear the results or reset, and it will reset everything to 0. The next section on the buttons is settings. Settings is where we can make changes. So the model has been set up on the basis of all the parameters of the year 2022, but these can be changed. So we can test different scenarios by changing the settings and test their effect on results. So if we want to compare, for example, staff availability or change it, we can click on embryologist staffing schedule or practitioner staffing schedule, and we change the number available each day. So these two sections are linked to spreadsheets with each day of the year, Monday to Sunday, and each week of the year, so we know the dates. And it will say how many, it will tell the model how many embryologists are available, and it's the same for practitioners. If we want to try a staffing scenario, we can reduce or increase the number by changing the spreadsheet. The other staffing option in setting that we can change is to allow overtime. So we can check that box. It will be applicable to all weekdays to allow the staff to be available, all staff to be available for an extra hour. We can also change the embryologist and practitioner start time to kind of create shifts in the staffing options. If we want to change working patterns, or workloads that we have in the model, we can change patient arrivals. So we have 3 areas of arrivals. We have egg collections, frozen embryo transfers, and semen analysis. And it's very similar. They all link to spreadsheets that tell the model how many egg collections we have planned every day, for example, and these can be changed. It's week by week for 52 weeks, Monday to Sunday, and that can be changed to test a scenario. Is the